Hey guys, it's Kevin again. This is my review for Finding Carter, Season 1, Episode 3, Drive. And, if you guys remember, last week I loved the first two episodes. I thought the first two episodes were very, very good. And this episode, for me, I still really enjoyed it. It was pretty solid, but it was just good, in my opinion. There were some parts that I really liked about this episode, but then there was stuff that I didn't really like about this episode. And we'll get to what I like, what I didn't like, but overall, I did enjoy this episode, and, yeah, but let's just get to it. So Liz talks to Kyle, and she's upset that the FBI is taking on the case. She says that she's sure Lori is still in the state, and he tells her to just let it go, and I understand why he's telling her that. I mean, if she's not a threat to Carter, then why should you worry about it? Basically, she says Lori sees Carter as her daughter and won't leave her behind, and that's the truth. Lori's not going to do... What he's trying to say here is, look, Lori's not going to do anything bad to Carter. Why worry about it? I can understand his logic there. What the hell does she need to worry about? Lori is not going to do anything bad to Carter. So I don't see the point of, I don't see the point of worrying about it. So Gabe snaps a pic of his dad's computer of Lori's aliases after he eavesdropped on them. And Elizabeth says she won't give this up, and Carter is lurking, listening to Elizabeth, and isn't happy. And Elizabeth just continues to be a bitch, personally. So at the station, Carter apologized to each of the cops about the food court prank. That was funny last week. So Elizabeth comes in with a perp, and Elizabeth asks what she's doing, and she says she's learning the names of the people who hate her. Basically, Elizabeth then cuffs a guy, and Carter asks who he is. Elizabeth says he's human sewage and tells Carter they need to talk. She goes to apologize to another cop, and he says he knows it can't be hard dealing with Elizabeth. And she says that her mother is a person she lived with all her life, not Elizabeth. And the cop tells her they have no leads, and neither does the FBI. She says that makes her happy. Carter checks out the teen perp. Elizabeth watches with concern, and Carter heads outside, and Elizabeth chases her out and says they need to talk, and Carter says her friends are waiting. Now, basically, Elizabeth is kind of upset at Carter, and Elizabeth basically says that because of the incident that happened with, the party and everything, they need to set boundaries, basically like a curfew, and Carter says pass, and Elizabeth says, oh, no, it's not an option, we have to do this. So she tells Carter, you need to be home by 10 o'clock every single night, and Carter says that's not funny. Elizabeth says if she comes in late, she'll cut off her phone, and she reminds Carter she ended up in the hospital from some of her choices, and Elizabeth says she needs to be a good parent, and Carter tells her she had one, and this is not what it looks like. Honestly, I do understand Elizabeth here, okay? She's being a good mom because she doesn't want her kid to do the wrong thing, and she's basically telling Carter, you can't just do whatever you want. I do understand that, okay? That I understand. But her whole, oh, I'm tracking down your mother, and I don't care if you like your mother more, I'm your mother, I really don't like that. But however, something like this, I understand her logic here. I do understand that. So Carter then asks Gabe about the cops at the station, and she tells him she apologized to all of them, but Liz is not happy about it. And Crash shows up, and Bird runs to hug him. He apologizes for missing the party and says hi to Carter. He gives Gabe a nod and asks Carter's name, and he tells Crash that Carter had a seizure from his substandard Molly, and Crash asks who told him it was, his Molly. So, he's doing drugs, and I kind of have a feeling this is gonna be, something very bad. We're gonna see, more of his drug addiction and everything, because, they're taking drugs, so that's obviously not a good thing. So I'm wondering if if his drug addiction's gonna get worse and worse and worse. We'll have to see. But Ovi says he has so many little baggies, he got confused. He says that he'll write his name on the bag, and Crash says he doesn't want his name on any baggies, and Ophi agrees and says he'll put names on the other one, and the blank ones will be his. Crash asks what's up, and Carter gets a text. She says she has to go because she has a curfew now, and it has to be in at 10, and Crash tells her to stay for 5 minutes, and she tells him that Elizabeth is the same at home as she is in the police station, and Elizabeth goes to the door. Carter comes in, says she's glad she didn't challenge her on this. David says what she means is hello. However, Carter then brings in Bird, Ophi, and Gabe with her. And she says Elizabeth didn't say anything about not being able to have friends over. So David says he can't wait to get to know them. And Carter tells Elizabeth she already knows one, and Crash comes in. And Elizabeth is furious about this. They are hanging in the kitchen, and Carter pulls out food, and Max comes in with groceries, and Gabe is thrilled. They have cereal and other junk food, and Crash turns down food, and Grant comes out to find Taylor, sitting on the stairs. And she asks she asks him how Carter gets away with what she's doing. And, Gabe basically Grant says, what, she's not allowed to have fun? I understand Grant's logic there as well. I mean, she should be allowed to have fun. Yes, I understand she shouldn't be doing drugs and things like that, but she's not. All she's doing is having some fun, and there's nothing wrong with having fun. And Taylor can't get upset about her for having fun. So Gabe shows Ophi and Bird the list of possible aliases. They agree to search them at Bird's place tomorrow, but won't tell Carter unless they find something. So Crash tells Carter the house is nice, and she says that it doesn't feel like home to her. She tells him she's the girl that was kidnapped, and he's shocked. She says she wants to be at home with her real mom, and he says that's what he wants too. So David tells Liz it's harmless, and Liz says one is a criminal she just arrested, and Crash she just arrested. So she says that jeopardizes her case and her career, and she tells David she knows he wants to be the cool dad, and he tells her to stop mocking him. He asks which kid, and she says it's the tall-looking kid, and he has a record, and he's been juvie most of his life, and he's now dealing drugs. And she says Carter saw him when she was handcuffing to him in a chair, and she tells David that Crash is a bad guy, and says they need to go out there together as Carter's parents, and he says he'll go talk to Crash. And they come out, and they see the girls dancing, and David says it's fine until he sees Crash was teaching Grant how to roll a joint, and Crash says it was just oregano, and Carter is annoyed at him, and he says it's a basic life skill. David says he's a sociopath, kicks him out, and Carter agrees and says he has to go, and, so that was definitely very interesting. I mean, definitely very big there. I mean, he's doing drugs, and I feel like his drug addiction I feel like something is going to happen with Carter and drugs. I kind of feel like Carter is going to start getting addicted to drugs because she's not really going to care what she does, and I feel like that's going to happen to her. I don't know, I just feel that way. So Liz then tells Carter she can't have anything to do with him again, and Carter says she understands that, gives him a big open, she understands that. Then she gives him like a huge open mouth kiss in front of her parents. It was like 3 minutes, and Gabe walks in and sees it and isn't happy. She breaks it off and tells Crash bye, and he leaves, and Carter asks Elizabeth if she understands her. She walks away from her parents and friends, and Elizabeth looks miserable because she knows it. She knows that Carter doesn't like her right now. Then we get a very nice scene. This scene I really like. David and Carter at the farmer's market, and we kind of see that they're bonding very, very well. I really like David and Carter in this scene. Even though I don't like what David is doing with the book and not telling her, I do like that, I do like this scene. So David and Carter at the farmer's market, and he tells her this is nice, and then asks her who she thought her father was and what she was told growing up. Carter says she was told her dad was a beautiful stranger that her mom had a fling with while backpacking through Europe, and he asks if he's a letdown, and she says it's cool because she never thought she'd get to meet her dad, and she says it's too bad he's a package deal with Elizabeth, and says he'd like her mom, and David says she's not the person he married, and he admits that in some ways it was because she was taken. He says the house feels like a war zone, and he wants to negotiate a ceasefire. He says Elizabeth is trying, and it's hard for her because her heart quit beating 13 years ago when she was taken. And that was a big reveal. I thought that was actually a very good reveal when we found out that the whole reason Liz is so worried is because 13 years ago, Elizabeth was actually kidnapped. I mean, I thought that was a fantastic reveal. The way they did that, I'm like, wow, I did not expect that. And Carter says scene and asks if he wrote this out ahead of time. He laughs and says it's been long since anyone really listened to him. And he says it's great having her home. She laughs about Birdie, Ophi, and Gabe are on the web looking up Lori's aliases. And he shows them, I thought that was a very nice scene because it really showed that they're bonding. And it also showed that, Elizabeth has a reason why she is like this. I like that. So, Bird, Ophi, and Gabe, they're on the web looking up Lori's aliases, and he shows them websites that the cops use to try and trace people. and he says they can do things the police can't do because they can ask Carter questions. And Bird says Gabe wants to be her knight in shining armor, and they remind him that she kissed Crash, and he says it doesn't mean anything. Bird tells him she's into bad boys, then Carter comes in, and Max is hanging out in the kitchen, and asks Taylor if it's cool that he hangs out, and we kind of see that Max and Taylor have a bit of a chemistry here. I'm wondering if they're going to get together. And basically, he offers to show him how, and she shows him how to do it. They smile, and he tells her Carter is lucky to have a cool sister. She tells him Carter is the cool sister, and he says she's smart, nice, and beautiful, and just as cool as Carter. And you know what? I like seeing this, because we can still see that Taylor is still jealous of Carter. She is. Because Carter's getting all this attention, and Taylor's not. So she's kind of jealous of her. So she shows him how to put them on a pan, and Elizabeth comes in and says it's nice and peaceful, and Elizabeth asks Max why Carter won't date someone like him, and he says they did, but were better as friends with occasional benefits. And then he corrects himself and says they were occasional. He wanted to be friends with benefits, and they were occasional, really. So he gets done with the croutons, and Taylor pops them in the oven and tells him to come back in 30 and help her make a salad. He leaves, and basically, I really like the chemistry between the two of them. I think Taylor and Max, we know that Carter and him aren't going to get together, and I think if Taylor really wants to be just like Carter, she needs Max, really. I think, Taylor obviously does not want to be with Gabe right now. She might be jealous of her and Carter. I don't think it's that she wants to be with Gabe. It's that she's jealous of Carter and Gabe. Like Gabe likes Carter and not her. But if she is someone like Max, then she has no reason to be upset. And I actually really like that, personally. I really hope that, Taylor tries to have chemistry with Max, because they have a lot of chemistry, really. So then Elizabeth tells Taylor she likes Max and wonders if she can get them back together. And Taylor says Carter does what she wants. And Elizabeth says she was willful like that, but that Taylor has always been such a good girl. And Taylor tells her that Carter isn't going to listen to her. And Elizabeth says that that's what she's counting on. So Burr complains after they've been searching for hours. They show Carter some names and ask her if she recognizes any. They ask Ophi if he's found any, and he says he discovered that his dad has been donating, his dad has been donating to, libertarians, something like that, and Carter recognized the name and an address, and they find it's a new address just an hour away from them, and they agree to go in the morning. So Kyla asks Gabe if the burner phone and text were his idea, and he tells his dad he's sorry. Kyle says it had his name written all over it. Kyle says the mall stunt was stupid, rude, and expensive, and Gabe asks how to make it up to him, and Kyle says he's not the type of dad that will tell him who to hang out with him, but says Carter can't be trusted and it isn't someone he should hang out with. And this scene I really loved because we got to see what Gabe's life is like at home. I really enjoyed this scene a lot. I thought this was a very well done scene. Now Gabe says she just lost her mom, but Kyle says everyone has losses, and how you handle them shows what kind of person you are. Honestly, that is so true. That's a very good, monologue. I agree with, what Kyle said there. It's true. However you handle losses is how you are as a person. And basically saying, Carter can't be trusted. So, we'll have to see what happens there. But Liz is setting a fancy table, and David comes in. He calls everyone down, and Carter tells David she'll be good. And Grant and Max talk, and the kids all come in and sit. Carter says she doesn't eat red meat. Max goes to sit, but then Elizabeth says it's a family dinner and that his stuff is in the living room and that Carter has new friends, so he should go. And Carter tells her to stop throwing her friends out and defends Max. She says that Max can stay and that he can ever stay in her room. And she tells Max to come up with her. And Elizabeth tells him she'll have some food. And Elizabeth is pleased with herself. So Carter and Taylor share the bathroom the next morning. She tells Carter that she really gave it to Elizabeth. Taylor tells her she missed the point. She tells Carter that Elizabeth was only pretending to throw him out because she thinks he's nice and wants her to be with him instead of Crash. And she tells Carter she played her like a kazoo, but it didn't work. She says it didn't work, and she tells Taylor she knows she likes him. Basically, Taylor says when it comes to boys, Carter wins, and she isn't doing this again. Carter and Gabe show up to the address. So yeah, Taylor and Carter still have a lot of tension between them, definitely. Carter and Gabe show up to the address. The guy tells them that the woman moved out a month ago and told him she was going to live with her daughter. Carter's excited and thanks Gabe and tells him he's an amazing friend. She kisses him, but he clearly wants more. He clearly likes her and really wants to be with her. So David meets with Toby and tells him that he can get him double the high. And then, Toby's the guy that's writing the book, obviously. Toby tells him he can get him double the highest offer he can get the kidnapper to talk. And David pitches writing it as a novel. Toby shuts it down. David says he doesn't need that much money and he prefers to write fiction. And Toby reminds him how much he loved his book tour, giving him autographs. Then he reminds him the passes on his other work. He also reminds him he owed $500K to Random House if he doesn't do the deal. And honestly, I'm glad that, he doesn't want to do it, but we'll have to see what he does. If worse comes to worse, he has to do it. I mean, it's really not his choice. Sometimes you just have to do things you're not happy about. So Crash waits for Carter outside the school and tells her he was an idiot and was trying to impress her, and she asks how teaching her kid brother how to roll a joint would impress her. He says he just wanted someone in her family to like him, and Grant did. He tells her he's truly sorry. She says she's not mad. Crash thanks her. She hops in the car with him. Opie and Gabe see it, and Opie says it's inevitable because of Carter. And this obviously is not going to be a good thing because they're in a car. Now Gabe says he's the one who's inevitable. She just doesn't know it yet. Carter and Crash, and Gabe still likes her, and I have a feeling that it's going to take a while for Gabe and Carter to get together. Now, Carter and Crash, they hang out in his car, and she asks about his tattoo that says, "I'm gonna die." He says it's true. She says she's been lied to a lot in her life. He says that all that matters is what she does from this moment on. He says that's what they told him when he left his juvenile detention center. They hear a siren. She says she hates that sound. She says it sounds like Elizabeth is calling her home for dinner. He says he's not crazy about it either. Cranks the car, drives them off, and at home, Max hangs out with Grant playing a video game. He tells Max he's glad he stayed, but he tells Grant he will have to go home. He will have to go soon. And Max says he's not in school or working and is sleeping on his ex's floor. And he says the only thing going for him is beating him at the zombie game. And Grant asks who is Carter's boyfriend, and Max says there are a lot of candidates, and Grant says he doesn't like Crash because he told him when he was his age he killed a guy, and Max says it wasn't true, and that he was just trying to impress him. He asks why, and Max says he's a cool kid, and Crash speeds them off away from the noise of the sirens. So I like this bonding between Max and Grant. I really do. I mean, Grant's a really nice kid. He's been really nice to Carter. And Max, also, he's a really good friend to her. So I like both of them, definitely. I like this bonding between them. So at this point, Carter's really worried. She asks if the sirens are coming for her, and he says maybe. She asks whose car it is, and he doesn't answer. She tells him to pull over, but he says he can't. He says the car must have a low jack. She tells him to let her out now. He pulls over. She gets out. He takes off. A police car is hot on his trail. She's in tears and calling for help. She says, "It's me. I screwed up." And luckily, before anything bad can happen, David picks her up, which honestly was the best thing to do because Crash, as we know, is doing drugs, and if she stayed in that car with him, she could have gotten into a car accident, which would not have been good. So she tells David she would have never gotten into the car if she knew it was stolen, and she tells him she's such an idiot. She tells him she's sorry and says that the most useless sentence in the English language. She says Elizabeth is going to kill her, and she doesn't blame her. David says she's at work and doesn't have to know, and she says thank God. And luckily, Carter's relieved beyond belief. They go home, and Carter calls him Dad for the first time. And honestly, that was great. I mean, I was like, yes, finally, she's starting to see it. This is her real family. And she says it's weird saying that. She thanks him, and then she hugs him. He takes her in his arms and holds her. He says he's a dad, and that's what we do. She tells him this is their first hug, and he says he thinks right. Lori then drives by just then, sees them hugging, and she gets a hard look on her face. So Lori obviously still does care about Carter and wants her back. And I thought that was a fantastic ending because we can see that Lori still does care about her. Now, a couple of things I do want to talk about in this episode. One, I don't like Crash. I'm going to say that right now. I don't like this Crash guy. I don't understand why he's trying to impress people by rolling up a joint. I don't like him at all. I really hope that Carter does not stay with this Crash guy because he's not good for her. He's not the kind of person she should be hanging out with. He's just not good for her overall. I do not like this guy, Crash. He's gotta go. Like, seriously. I don't care what happens to him, he's gotta go. I like her friends, even though they do drugs. I do like them because they're good friends to her. Gabe, I feel terrible for him. I really do. He really wants to be with Carter. He really likes her. And I think that it's going to take a little while for Carter and Gabe to actually get together. I hope they get together soon, because I really like them together. I don't know if they're going to get together. I really hope they do. I really like them together, but we'll have to see what happens between the two of them. I personally really like them together, though. Now, as far as Elizabeth goes, I like her more now. I do. Now that we understand why Elizabeth is such a bitch, now that we understand that Elizabeth was kidnapped when she was Carter's age, I have more sympathy for this woman now. I do. I understand why she's so hard on Carter. I understand why she is so, why she's so uptight all the time. I understand this now, because she was abducted at the same age that, 13 years ago. Probably the same age when Carter was abducted, so she knows what it's like, and I thought that was a really good twist, honestly. Now, Taylor and Max, I see a future for them. I really do. We know that Carter and Max have no future together because they just want to be friends, but Taylor and Max, I see a future for them. I really do. I think Max, honestly, might make Taylor become less jealous of Carter. And honestly, I have more sympathy for a lot more people now. I have sympathy for Elizabeth now. I have sympathy for Taylor now, because Elizabeth was kidnapped when she was Carter's age. She is just looking out for her daughter. She does not want her daughter to make the same choices as she did. I'm assuming when Elizabeth was kidnapped, she was, really rebellious after that. And she doesn't want Carter to make the same choice. I feel like we're going to find out more about Elizabeth as the show goes on. My whole, they're not really her parents theory is complete bullshit. I mean, it's not true at all. But Taylor, I like Taylor now because now we know she's jealous of Carter. And she just really wants to be like Carter. It's just that she's jealous of her. And I honestly felt a little bad for Taylor in this episode. I did. I felt bad for her because, Carter was doing all this cool stuff and she wasn't a part of it and she was kind of jealous of her. I understand why Taylor was so upset with her. And I understand that definitely. I totally understand that definitely. I really do. But overall, this episode was probably the best episode of the season. I really enjoyed this episode. There was a lot of stuff I really enjoyed. And it looks like next week Carter is going to meet Lori again. She's going to meet up with her. And it's going to get interesting there, definitely. I'm hoping that Lori is sincere and just really wants her back. We see that Carter's starting to connect, though, with David and Elizabeth, so it might be the worst time for this to happen. I like that Carter is starting to connect with them, though, and she actually called David Dad. Also, is David going to publish this book? Is David going to listen to Toby and actually make this book into an autobiography, or is he going to go with his original idea and make it fiction? We'll have to see. But overall, as I said, this was the best episode of the season. I really enjoyed it. I liked everything that was going on in it. That's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for Tyrant. So I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.